Hello and welcome to this lecture. We will be going over texture set list and texture set settings in this video. So these two windows. So what is a texture set? So texture set is basically the materials that are added by you to your models in the 3D program you're working like Blender, Maya, Max, etc. So the materials that are added by you to your models are converted to texture sets as soon as you import them into Substance Painter. So to understand this a little bit more clearly, let me show you by an example. Alright, so here I have opened a Blender and we have this fire extinguisher model that we will be texturing completely later on in this course. So I will be using a little bit of Blender throughout this course to show you a couple of things like how we can import or export from a 3D program to Substance Painter and things like preparing your model for Substance Painter. But you can use any 3D program of your choice like Maya or Max. It does not make a huge difference. All right. So let's check this model out. So this model currently has two different materials. If you select any object and click over here on the material properties, you will see this metal material. So this metal material has been applied to few objects over here. And if you select this pipe-like thing, you will find this rubber and plastic material, which is applied to these objects. Alright, so this model currently has two different materials and let's import this model into Substance Painter. So you don't really have to follow my steps right now because I'm just doing this for explanation purposes. We will go over exporting models to Substance Painter and setting up projects in the next section in complete detail. But for now, let's just quickly see what happens. Alright, so I have created a new project in Substance Painter and imported this fire extinguisher model into it. Hello guys, just quickly pausing the video because I forgot to mention the substance files I was using while I was recording this video. So I am adding this part of the video later on while editing. So to use the substance files that I did in this chapter, you just need to go into your resources files folder that was provided to you with the course. In here, you will find every single thing related to the course that I'm using in these videos. So even if I forget to mention something while recording, like I did just now, so make sure to go through this folder and you will definitely find all the files that you were looking for. So for this chapter, if you go into the Substance Painter files, you will find these two substance files, this Fire Extinguisher 1 and Fire Extinguisher 2. These are the two substance files that we will be using in this video. Also, if you wish to check out the Blender file we were working on earlier, you can also find it over here in the Blender files folder. So yeah, you will find all the related files to the course in the resources files folder. So yeah, make sure to go through it properly. All right now, so on with the video. So I have created a new project in Substance Painter and imported this fire extinguisher model into it. And as soon as you see over here in the texture set list window, you will find this metal material and the rubber and plastic material that we added in Blender appearing as texture sets. So yeah, it is pretty easy to understand that whichever material you add in your 3D program, they will be converted to the texture sets in Substance Painter. Alright, so let's look over this window now. You can turn on and off a particular texture set. If you like want to work in isolation with this particular texture set only, you can disable the metal one or you can disable this one. Also conveniently, you can just click over here. So this is the focus mode. If you select this metal texture set and click over here, rest all of the texture sets would be disabled automatically as we just have to. So this one is disabled. And if you click over it again, it appears back. Also, there is a quick shortcut for this. You can press Alt plus Q. So that is the isolation mode for the texture set. As soon as you select this, you can see the other one disappeared. Alright. Also, you can click on this eye icon. So basically, if you have like multiple texture sets and you want to just hide them all at once and maybe enable just a single one, or if you want to just select show all, you can select from over here. Also, you can invert. So invert is basically if one is hidden and one is visible. If you invert this, it will just flip. So yeah, these are the couple of settings over here. Also, if you double click on the texture set, you can also change the name for it. Maybe we want to change the name to like painted metal. We have updated our material or texture set to a painted metal. So we can just double click over it and change the name. Maybe we want to remove the and just name it rubber plastic. So yeah, you can do these things. You can also go over here in the settings section and select the show all descriptions. By doing this, you will see this no description written under your texture set. You can just double click on it and give your texture set some description. So I'm just writing anything. You can give it a description if you want, but I don't think it is that useful. We can just hide this. All right. So one more thing that I want you guys to understand before like adding materials or texture sets onto your own models is that every texture set has to be UV unwrapped separately. So what I mean by that is if you will just press F1, you will see the 2D view, that is the UVs of your selected texture set. So currently we are in the painted metal texture set. So these are the UVs for just the painted metal. If you will select the rubber and plastic one, you will see a different set of UVs that is for these particular objects that have the rubber and plastic texture set. So make sure you always UV unwrap all the objects separately that have separate texture sets. Alright, so let's take the example of this model only. Although this model can be easily UV unwrapped on a single UV only, but because this model has two different texture sets, we need to UV unwrap them separately. So first we can UV unwrap the objects that have the painted metal texture set, and then we need to UV unwrap the objects that have the rubber plastic texture set. So we need to UV unwrap them both separately. But let's say this model only had a single material or a single texture set all over it, then we can UV unwrap it on a single UV only. So let's just quickly see how that would work out. I will move back to Blender. So here I have quickly duplicated the old fire extinguisher to create a new one. The difference between both of them is one of them is the older one only with two different materials or texture sets, namely the metal and the rubber and plastic one. And this other fire extinguisher only has a single material or texture set, that is fire extinguisher, applied to all of its objects. So let me just help you quickly visualize this. If I go over here in the viewport display and change the color of it, so now these are the colors of the materials. So these all objects are purple. That means all of them have the same material. That is the fire extinguisher one. And this one is for the metal material. All these red objects have the metal material, and all these green objects have the rubber and plastic one. So now let's quickly import them into Substance Painter and let's see. All right. So now we are here in Substance Painter, and as you can see, we have three different texture sets now. And if you will enable and disable them, you can clearly see what all objects are the texture sets applied to. So now if you will press F1 for the 2D view, you can clearly see that for the fire extinguisher texture set, if I select the fire extinguisher texture set, all the UVs are unwrapped on the same UV layer, while for the metal and the rubber texture set, they are each on different ones. So I hope my point is clear now. Just remember to always UV unwrap different texture sets on separate UVs, because different texture sets will have different textures at the end. Okay, so now on to the next thing. If you have like a lot of texture sets in your model and it is kind of getting confusing to select them from the list, there is also a quick little shortcut to select the texture sets fast. So I will press F2 to come back in 3D view. So now to use the shortcut, you just need to press Ctrl and Alt, then use your right click. As you can see over here also, that Ctrl plus Alt plus right click is for texture set selection. So to use this, just hold Ctrl and Alt and click over any object using your right click like this. As soon as I do that, you can see the texture set is selected over here. If I select this object, you will see the metal texture set is selected, and so on and so forth. So this is a pretty handy shortcut that you can use when there are like a lot of texture sets in your project and it is getting kind of confusing. So you can quickly just hold Ctrl and Alt and select the object that you want to currently paint on or texture like this. All right. So the next thing is let's move on to the texture set settings window. If you will click on over here, there are three main tabs. So the first one is the general properties. If you will click over here, it is the channels and the mesh maps. All right. So let's start by general properties. As the name suggests, these are the general properties for the particular texture set, the name, the description, and the size. So size is pretty important. It is like the output resolution of your particular texture set. So to just quickly show you how this size option works, I will just drag and drop a very simple material. So maybe we can drag and drop this one, plastic cables braided, drag and drop it over here like this. So currently the texture size is 4K. You might have a different one, but for me it is 4K. If I will set this to a very low number like 256, you will see as soon as I do that, the textures are really blurry because I've reduced the resolution size for this particular texture set. So now the textures appear to be very blurry. If I keep on increasing it, you will see the textures get more sharper as soon as I increase the size. So yeah, this option is like very handy. Sometimes if you're working in 4K and your project is getting like very sluggish or laggy, you can decrease the size for that particular texture set and Substance Painter will be like pretty smooth again. Generally, I suggest you guys to work in maybe 1024 or 2048 only. Don't paint in 4K because it can get quite choppy and laggy. So yeah, I generally like to work in 2K. Also, one more thing that I want to mention is you can use different texture sizes for different texture sets. So if I just drag and drop it over here, you will see for this metal texture set, the size is still 4K. And for this one, I think it is reduced to 512. So yeah, you can have different texture sizes for different texture sets. All right. So the next tab is your channels. We have our multiple various channels over here. So these are the channels or the texture maps that will be your final textures that you can use in like Blender, Maya or Unreal Engine. So we have the base color, the metallic, roughness, normal and height. But as we go further down the course, we will be learning more about various specialized channels and learn how to add and use them. Like, for example, if you want to make something glow, then you can click over this plus icon and add the emissive channel. Or maybe you want to make something transparent or semi transparent, then we will be using the opacity channel. So, yeah, there are different channels for specialized things. So, we will be learning that later in the course. Also, there is this gear icon that we can use to change the format of the particular channel, but I don't really think we will be using that because the default values work just fine. So next you will see these couple of options that we will be going over at a later on stage in the course because we really don't need to use them at early stages of learning Substance Painter. All right. So the next is mesh maps. That is a really, really important part of Substance Painter. Whenever we create a new project, generally the first step that we need to do is start by making your mesh maps before even starting the texturing process. So mesh maps are basically a set of maps that are used by Substance Painter to perform various stuff. Like these maps will be used when we will be using some of the advanced features like smart masks, smart materials in the later on sections of the course. To start with the baking process, you just need to click on this Bake Mesh Maps button and this window will pop up over here. So we will be going over the whole process of setting up your project in Substance Painter, starting in Blender and learning how to export your model into Substance Painter, then creating a new project and then finally baking the mesh maps. So we will be covering all that in the next section. So don't worry, mesh maps are really important but not that hard to bake. We just need to click a few buttons and we will be done. So yeah, I think this much is enough for this lecture. We will be going over the layers tab or the layers window in the next video. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.